Podnutz Pro, show number 49. This is the show where we attempt to kind of broaden your knowledge about small business and servers and routers and all that good stuff and kind of expand your horizon so maybe you can support these bigger customers. Here we have our co-host, the famous, someone called him a Jedi in an email, Matt Rainey.
Oh, hello, everybody. Hey, Lalo.
Cool.
How's everybody doing?
Good, man. Good. And I apologize for last week. I came home yesterday around Wednesday and my router was down, so I couldn't get on the internet. Now, this kind of coincided with the fact that there was an outage within my county. During the day, there was an outage and some of our sites went down. So when I went home, it was no shock that I had no internet. So I called the ISP and they said, oh, just give it a few hours. It'd probably be back up. So after, it was like maybe 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, still no internet. I was able to log into my router that the ISP provides. I was able to get a private IP address. And I look at the log, and the log says, firmware upgrade failed. So I called back the ISP, which is Bright House, aka Time Warner. I said, well, I just want to call back. I seen an entry in the log saying that the firmware upgrade failed. Does that have anything to do with anything? No. So we had to cancel the show because I still had no internet on Wednesday. Still had no internet on Thursday. And on Friday, they finally came out after they told me they could not be out for a week or so. And I wasn't here, so my roommate was here. And Mr. Rainey, this guy brought in the router, and he couldn't log into the router. We had to Google to get the default ID and password because he didn't know it. It's a surfboard.
Oh, yeah.
And then on top of that, he had no idea how to set up a wireless network. So as he went to the truck, my roommate, who also works in IT, he logged into the router, set everything up. So then when the technician came back in, he goes, oh, you got it working? He's like, yeah, I got it done. He goes, well, can you show me?
Yes. Do you want to bill for training or do you want to bill for service?
I'm telling you, man. And so, again, so the router went kaput, but I'm just shocked that this guy goes out to people's homes and set up. I mean, he couldn't even log into the router.
Come on, that's not his job. His job is to just plug it in. It should work.
Probably. And then with the new router, this is another side story. I have a DHCP scope and I do Mac filter. I do stuff that the average user does not do. But I logged into the router with the default ID and password. Then it kicks me out or it won't take my password change. And this is going on 2 hours. I'm like, okay, I know I'm taking some medication, but this is not beyond me. So I call level 2 support and I get a guy. I said, look, I know everyone says the same story. I go, but I log into this router. I cannot change the admin password. And then after a while, he goes, well, I don't think you can. Well, I have before, but why is it I can't change it? He goes, well, let me go ahead and see if I can log into it. So he logged into the router. He could not change the ID and password on his end. So then he proceeds to tell me that these routers with the firmware upgrade or something, that these routers call home to the ISP and therefore you can't change the ID and password. I said, well, is there a problem with this picture? And the guy was very nice. He was very nice. I said, so I can pretty much go into any router and just log in with the default ID and password. I go, that doesn't sound right. He goes, no, and I agree. So for kicks and giggles, he tries. There's another set of credentials that he has that I don't have that allows him to change the ID and password on that router. So I said, okay, can you change it to this here? And he did it, and I was good to go. Mm-hmm. But why would you restrict the end user from changing the ID and password on your home router?
Well, that's why I don't have any service where I don't have control of the router. So
yeah,
that's terrible.
So I mean, I'm happy with the internet service, but first of all, whoever I spoke to first, I was kind of shocked that one log entry didn't mean anything to him whatsoever. Then the router did go bad, and then John Doe or Mary's husband had no idea how to set up the wireless network. Hmm.
Yeah, that's bad. And for businesses, when I get if somebody calls and says this ISP has to put on their own router and they won't let us have control of it, my answer is then we need to change ISPs because I don't want the ISP in control of the router.
No, I mean, like especially if you're doing, if your environment calls for different, and parameters. So, can you believe we're talking about the ISP and Matt Rainey goes offline? They're following me, people. Give us 1 second
There
here.
you go. See, my internet didn't drop. Let me start a ping test.
All right. Well,
Basic troubleshooting.
let me call you back real quick, boss.
Okay.
Live troubleshooting on the show. So yeah, talk about my ISP, and guess what happens? Kaput. And why you're not even on my list of users? Now they've taken over my laptop. Computer Pro, universal routers around here can turn off the CPU. Yeah, that's insane, huh? No, I actually have sorry, I have Time Warner, but Vince, I'm not sure if your question is toward Computer Pro or not. Okay, cool.
Hey.
Yo, all right, we got you back.
All right. I'm watching my ping test. I'm gonna see what happens.
Okay.
What is up with that? Oh, that's Skype. I did upgrade to a new version of Skype a few days ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I
don't
tired of the prompt.
Oh, I actually don't get that prompt. I think I turn it off. Or I don't ever see it because people told me they get their prompt for Skype. But back to our conversation. Yeah. So you know, it's, especially in a business environment, I'm just a home user, but the fact that you cannot control or have any ability to administer that piece of equipment, I mean, that's just a loophole right there.
Yeah, and we just tell me we can't work like that, so you got to switch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but I'm under contract for 2 years. I said, when did you sign that contract? Last week. I said, well, we're in the contract that say we can't have control over our own network, so get them on the phone and we'll talk to them. So, anyway, that's always fun. I love dealing with ISPs.
All right, so that's the explanation for last week. So I deeply apologize. But Matt, what we got going on today?
All right, the first thing I want to talk about tonight, we got a few topics and we got a few emails. One thing I want to talk about, and this is useful when you're setting up a new server or if you're going into a new client and you want to find out about their server. And that is, it's called the Best Practices Analyzer. If you're doing server work and you haven't used this, you have to use it. It's not a fix-all for everything, but it gives you a good overview of what's going on with the server. So I'm going to give you, for instance, of what I did. I got a client who called last week with some funny issues going on in their server. And he's an IT guy. He's been taking care of their network for a few years.
Okay.
Which will lead me into my next topic in a minute. But he says, I can't figure this problem out. I have too many issues going on. So I do my usual thing when I'm looking on a new server, logs, free space. I ask if I can reboot it before I do anything. So I reboot it, make sure it reboots okay. I'm not going to be responsible for blue screening after I've changed a setting that has nothing to do with it. But anyway, I like to reboot a new server, just to make sure it boots up fine. Did all that, and I didn't really see anything going on in those few things. So I said, you know what, let me run the Best Practice Analyzer. So if you this, for instance, was a small business server 2008. So if you just go to Google, I'm not going to give you a link. You just go to Google and search for Best Practice Analyzer, SBS 2008, or whichever server you're running, you'll find the link. It's very easy to run. You install it, it runs, and it gives a report of all the settings that aren't best practices. Very useful to look at. In this case, the things that popped out right away were some DNS settings that were wrong. And of course, you can't check everything on the server when you're first looking at it. And I didn't even think to check the DNS settings on his network card, but sure enough, he has some funny settings in there. Took those settings out. Everything worked wonderfully after that. You can do it even on a new install. It's going to recommend things that you should change that aren't necessarily done in an initial install of Windows or Exchange server. So you can run that in new computer installs, and any server that you go to, you can run the best practice analyzer. Have you ever used that, Lalo?
Is this the similar product to the MSBA, a Microsoft? What does that stand for?
Baseline analyzer?
Yeah.
It's similar. I think that product may have been discontinued, huh?
Okay.
It may be. I used to run that. Let's see. Microsoft Baseline Configure Analyzer. Let's see what that does. It's not quite the same. This is specific to the server that you're running, and it looks for certain things.
So it looks for proper DNS configuration, DHCP.
It'll check everything. It'll check.
You want to say that one more time, Matt? And we lost them again. I guess I'll be doing some editing. Weird, huh? Trying to get Matt online here. Sorry.
Hey.
Hey, man. And
that was mine. My internet was down just now, for sure.
And let me call you back with some video, okay?
Okay. Hi.
Alrighty, alright, cool.
I'm marking this as fair. It asked me for my feedback on Skype.
See,
even though it's not their fault.
And I was worried because I said, okay, I'm talking about my ISP, and they hijacked my connection.
Yeah, they might be listening. Although I didn't really talk bad about my ISP.
All right.
So
we left off how we were talking about the things that the best practice analyzer checks.
Okay. I don't even have a list because it's what I could tell. It checked all kind of things. It even went down to certain registry entries that are best practices.
As far as which registry items?
Let me see if I can remember, because some of them were so I've never even seen these registry keys.
Okay, that's fine. I got pretty sure it has some of the settings, but these Microsoft's best practices,
right?
So this is a Microsoft tool.
It is a Microsoft tool, yes. So when you search for best practice analyzer, it's going to give you a Microsoft tool. And it checked things for Exchange server because it's a small business server. It checks things for Windows. It checked things for services. It checked a lot of different things on this particular server. So I've been running this definitely any new server I come across. And when I do a clean install, I've been running it. Now, I've ran it before with SBS 08 and SBS 03. And right out of the box, after clean install, you run this and it would find problems. The last server I did, which was this week, I ran it and it found nothing. So maybe the install is getting better and it knows if it's best practices, it should do it on install. But definitely for 03 and 08, this tool finds a lot of things even on clean installs.
Now, does it give you the option to fix it, or does it show a recommendation?
Okay. It'll tell you how to fix it. So, like the registry keys, it'll say, go to this key and set this. So, and there's always links for